Oh, hello there. I'm just reading some Strongholds and Followers here by MCDM. Anyways, so I don't have a video for the last session of Nevre because reasons. Something happened I could have handled better. I didn't. So instead, I'm just going to do a quick, session journal, whatever it's called. Glare from my computer screen. Let me see if that's better. If that's no, it's not better. I'll move then. So maybe the glare's not as bad on my glasses. Anyways, so the session started out in the ruins that we ended the previous session in. Party begins their long rest. That they started the last session. We just jumped right back in right at the beginning of it. The first watch is taken by Bellathor, which may or may not be different from the end of the previous episode. But we decided, after a little bit of deliberation, that Bellathor can go ahead and have first watch because he wanted it. The only thing that happens is during first watch, there is a knock at the door. Bellathor awakens the rest of the party and tells the person knocking at the door that nobody is there, which barely succeeds at an 18 versus a 17. Oh, alright then, I guess there's nobody in here. And there's footsteps walking away. Sometime after the long rest, Bellathor, the opener of doors, opens another door, forcefully. Inside he finds a kobold, a goblin, and a gnoll, who are easily defeated. The party wanders around the dungeon for a little bit longer. While wandering, they run into a familiar voice, a half-red dragon veteran. Let me spell veteran right. There we go. Bellathor says hello, or something of that nature. Hey, the half-red dragon responded. Your voice sounds like that door. You must have changed shape. After a round of combat, during which Don Quixote goes down from a single flame breath, Zira manages to convince the half-red dragon to talk. So just a really quick recap. Bellathor is the hammer dwarf, Don Quixote is the Don Quixote human, and Zira is the water genasi. Okay. During this, so Zira convinces the half-red dragon to talk. I go through two more players' turns just to make sure that nothing stupid happens, and then it's the half-red dragon's turn again, and we end combat there. Through the course of the conversation, the half-red dragon tells the party that this location of the dungeon is the base of Grisht, the leader of the new orc country of Warrock, that is just to the north. There was a little recording foible. The recording failed for some reason. Tells the party that this is the base of Grisht, the leader of the new orc country of Warrock. I believe I just said that, but, Richard Longtoe shows him a copy of the land deed that he has, because he doesn't want a Spark to set up the, deed. Because of current politics, which the party would have known, they are very major politics, the orcs are not supposed to have this base. I mean, they're allotted a certain number of bases, but they have to be, have to be approved by the council. That's the word I'm looking for. And this one definitely is not, because the council put this keep, or former keep, up for grabs. The party convinces the half-red dragon veteran to go to the correct, nudge nudge, base to the east. The half-red dragon agrees that he will head in that direction, and tells them that they should probably inform the goblin boss running the place to let him know we're in the wrong place. Then walks off. At the next door, Bellathor has decided to go ahead of the party in the ruins, and so Tuin gets a chance to check the door for traps, and promptly falls over unconscious after a scythe cuts into him. Zira stabilizes Tuin, and Richard Longtoes attempts to disable the trap. He also gets knocked out, but he does successfully disable the trap. Zira also stabilizes him. With a natural 20, Zira remembers that goblin bosses can deflect an attack from themselves to another goblin, and informs the party that they need to deal with the goblin boss first. Once Bellathor rejoins the group, they charge Bellathor first into combat. Side note, they took a short rest to heal up from the previous wounds. Bellathor takes a large chunk out of the goblin boss's hit points in the first round of combat. Richard destroys one of the orcs. Nary a piece can be found. Zira finishes off the goblin boss with watery punches, while Don Quixote magic missiles the two other goblins in the room. The goblins retaliate, seeing their leader and orc dead. One slices at Dawn, and the other shoots its crossbow at Zira. Dawn takes no damage, while Zira takes a minimal amount of damage. Bellathor punches one of the remaining goblins to death, and Tuin finishes off the other. After the combat, Bellathor sees a shining object near the door. It's his special weapon, as I have been making special weapons for all of my player characters. This hammer does some pretty cool things that have not yet been revealed to the rest of the party, and I don't want to reveal them at the moment. After clearing out that room, there's only one room left, and I fast-traveled the adventurers there. They clear out that dungeon really quickly, ending the dungeon crawl. After which, Richard Longtoes decides that we shall build a tower. Using, Strongholds and Followers rules. The tower will enable spellcasters to work on their spells, combining spells, coming up with new spells, etc. But in order for that to happen, they need 5,000 gold base cost, and about 75 days for a first level tower. As they leave the dungeon, they are talking about building this tower, and suddenly someone's like, we should go fishing. To which something responds, "Oh yes, fishing would be great. Too bad there are no streams nearby." This voice, they find out, is coming from an awoken cedar tree. A giant awoken cedar tree. They have a conversation with this tree, and eventually it promises to provide them with stone from a previous ruin, which was attacked by trees because they were clear-cutting the forest, in return for the adventurers not clear-cutting forest. Basically, I'd like people living here, but the last people that lived here destroyed my forest. Don't do that. will be peachy. At this point, Dawn wanders off, gets lost, ends up back at the tower, and decides instead of going west, which was his original direction of travel, he decides to go south. He is followed by Richard Longtoes and Zira, as Belethor decided to go north, and Tuin joined him. In the initiative order, I don't know, I decided to go with Belethor and Tuin first, because technically Belethor decided to go north before Dawn went south. Or Tuin decided to go with Belethor before the other two decided which direction they were going, so I went with them. So Belethor and Tuin find a ruin with walls that are no more than a foot in height. But every single wooden door is still standing. Belethor is distracted by all the wooden doors and is going around crushing them, while Tuin finds about 50 gold worth, maybe 60 gold worth of treasure, which would be a large sum if they weren't looking for 5,000 gold. Or rather, that sum is dwarfed in the face of looking for 5,000 gold. Meanwhile, Dawn, Richard, and Zira... Oh, did I cover that Richard is the halfling rogue? I don't believe I did. And that Tuin is a drow. Anyways, Dawn, Richard, and Zira find a village of gnomes that they are currently working a stone quarry, and have mentioned that they are good with woodworking. After a short conversation, and discovering that the party already has a source of stone for a tower they want to build, they quote the party at 4,000 gold and 75 days labor, assuming that enough stone is provided. Those of you who are following along at home may notice that that is a 1,000 gold piece reduction of cost. There's a lot of stone involved in a tower, so I figured just going with a nice, easy 1,000 off would be a good start. Unbeknownst to the players, the gnomes immediately packed and went off in the direction the players came from. They're going to meet the tree. The tree's going to explain, hey, I'm dredging this up. You can start now if you want, but obviously payment isn't going to be made by the tree. So... jumping back to Tuin and Belethor, we did a roll. They rolled very badly and found nothing. Or rather, they rolled decently. I rolled a D85 because they didn't roll great, and rolled really low when I said they found nothing. Meanwhile, John, Richard, and Zira found a green wormling nest. Zira set up spike thorns, and the three of them hid. The green dragon wormling notices the spike thorns after passing the spell save perception roll. Stops on the opposite side of the spike thorns from the party. The party gets a surprise round. The wormling moves forward, but can't reach anyone in that combat, in that round. And then it dies before it can do anything. It would have used its acid breath on Richard, which was the only one exposed at the time, but it was out of range for that because of where where Zira had decided to put the spike thorns. After killing the wormling, they skin the wormling, drain it of its blood, and take some trophy teeth. I also explained that, as per the rules, they could indeed make arrows of slaying with that blood, if they find a smith of high enough caliber. Tuin and Belethor do the last thing in the session by crossing the border into the new country of Warrock. Tuin, thankfully, speaks Orcish, as the orcs have been refusing to send border guards out that speak in common. After a short series of questions, Tuin is able to convince the orc party that they are traitors and nothing more. This persuasion roll is close. Tuin rolled an 8. The Border Patrol rolled a 6. After some deliberation, as I told the party they could come up with a party name, they decide that they are not ready to come up with one, and Tuin tells the orc that their company is TBD LLC. To be determined, Limited Licensing Company. Their trade? Mixed goods. Thanks for watching this journal entry.